As many of you may know, the stars don't lie, but people do.
Welcome back to our channel, Atma Occult. Today, we will be talking about the horoscope compatibility between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift from the perspective of Vedic astrology.
Before we dive in, be sure to check out our essential chart overview. If you've ever wanted a clear, structured understanding of your Vedic birth chart as a whole, this is the perfect place to start. It's straightforward, comprehensive, and gives you a foundation for understanding your broader life path with clarity and confidence. We've made it simple to book. Just follow the link in the description of this video and reserve your spot today.
With that said, let's get into it. So we do not have an official verified birth time for Taylor Swift, so we will be considering her and Blake Lively's charts from the moon instead of the ascendant. However, when we overlay their charts on top of one another, that composite chart will be viewed from Cancer, which is Blake Lively's ascendant.
So the first thing we see is that Taylor's moon is in the sign of Gemini, and Blake's moon is in the sign of Leo. Gemini is the 11th house from Leo, and Leo is the 3rd house from Gemini. The 11th house represents things like gains, fulfillment of desires, friendship network circles, and an elder sibling. The 3rd house represents things like communication, gossip, social media, friends, and a younger sibling. So in a strange way, even though Blake is older than Taylor, in the context of this friendship, Taylor was in the role of the elder sibling with more status, recognition, wealth, and social media following. And Blake was in the role of a younger sibling, looking up to Taylor and wanting to gain in some way from the relationship.
When we overlay the two charts, we can see that Taylor Swift's K2 goes into Blake Lively's 1st house. This can cause Blake to act kind of strange when they spend time together. And that's because K2 is headless and represents confusion. So when Blake is spending time with Taylor, she could gradually become more confused, directionless, maybe impulsive. She could have even embarrassed herself at times trying to get Taylor's approval. But on the positive side, something about their interaction could have also caused Blake to become more spiritually inclined. And if you'd like to know more about Blake's individual birth chart, follow the links in the description and watch our 3-part series on the astrology of the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case.
If we look at the planetary periods that Blake and Taylor were running when they first met, it can tell us more about the nature of their relationship. From what we can gather in our research, their friendship started in December of 2015. During this time, Blake was in the maha daśa of Mars, and Taylor was in the maha daśa of Jupiter. Mars and Jupiter are considered friendly to one another in Vedic astrology. Jupiter is considered the general and Mars the soldier, showing that the relationship would only work if Blake was willing to let Taylor be in control. However, based on what we know about Blake's personality, that might not have been something that she really enjoyed.
In 2021, Taylor Swift moved from Jupiter Mahadasha to Saturn Mahadasha, and Blake Lively moved from Mars Mahadasha to Rahu Mahadasha. This shift in astrological time periods changed the nature of their relationship. Rahu is the planet which pulls a person into delusions and obsessions. So Rahu will give Blake a tendency to become obsessed with her own perception of herself or who she wants to be. And Saturn is the most serious and realistic planet. So when someone enters a Saturn period, they tend to become more conservative in their behavior, at least compared to the other time periods in their life. So when Blake and Tyler met, they were running time periods which were much more harmonious with one another. But now their life paths are going in different directions. Rahu is causing Blake to move deeper into delusions of grandeur and instability, while Saturn is causing Taylor to be more settled down, realistic, and stable.
If we look into the numerology of this friendship, we can see that Blake was born on the 25th of the month. 2 plus 5 equals 7, which represents K2. Taylor was born on the 13th of the month. 1 plus 3 equals 4, which represents Rahu. This makes their relationship a representation of the Rahu-Ketu axis, with Taylor as the head, Rahu, that makes decisions, and Blake as the tail, Ketu, that follows. This again shows the need for Blake to be deferential to Taylor if the relationship is going to work. However, we know from her individual chart that she wants to be the one who makes all the decisions. So this creates tension. If we look again at the overlay of the two charts, we can see that Taylor's sun goes over Blake's Saturn, showing that Taylor would dominate the friendship. So there are many factors in this compatibility reading indicating that if Blake tries to capitalize on the friendship in a disingenuous way, Taylor sees her behavior for what it is and withdraws from the relationship.
Taylor's Mars goes over Blake's Saturn, which would make Blake feel irritated because of not being as successful as Taylor. Taylor's Saturn and Mercury go into Blake's 6th house, activating a karma to be involved in conflicts and litigation, and that's especially related to communication. Taylor's Venus and Rahu go into Blake's 7th house of spouse and public relations. This interaction makes Blake feel more obsessed with wanting to be loved by the masses, like Taylor is. This astrological factor would have fed Blake's delusion that there was a smear campaign against her rather than just genuine dislike from the masses. It would also add more Rahu qualities to Blake's relationship partner, Ryan Reynolds. So basically, anytime Taylor would associate with Blake, it would fuel Ryan's ego and make him feel a perceived elevation in status.
This placement would also make Blake more obsessed with her own relationship, particularly the sexual aspect of it, because the sign of Capricorn can be associated with sexual kinks. The vibe that we get from this is almost like Ryan would want Blake to role play as Taylor Swift, or Ryan would be sexually fixated in some way on Blake's relationship with Taylor. Obviously, there's no way to prove that, but that's kind of what we're seeing here. Finally, we can see Taylor's Jupiter and Moon going into Blake's 12th house, showing that Blake might spend more money or think more about expenses when they are together.
So if we summarize what we're seeing in the compatibility between these two, we can say that overall, this friendship for Blake Lively was an opportunity to increase her status and gain from associating with Taylor Swift. Many factors indicate that she would have had to hide her true nature and act more deferential towards Taylor in order for Taylor to be willing to engage in the friendship. Because Blake perceived Taylor as having a higher social status than her, she would have been willing to temporarily go against her usual tendency, which is to try to be superior to everyone.
Blake would feel like a younger sibling and friend to Taylor, but over time, the constant communication and need for involvement in gossip and drama would eventually feel like an overwhelming annoyance, which would cause her to withdraw, especially given Taylor's entry into the more serious and mature time period of Saturn and Blake's current immersion in the turbulent and troublesome time period of Rahu, causing them to no longer share any rapport with one another and ultimately part ways.
So there you have it. This was our horoscope compatibility analysis of the friendship between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and let us know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Also, be sure to check out our essential chart overview if you haven't gotten a reading from us yet. Thank you for watching.